This is Power Hour with Gabriella Power.
Hello and welcome to Power Hour. I'm Gabriella Power. Thank you for your company. President Donald Trump has blasted the Democrats, comparing the party to Somalia.
I'm getting calls from Democrats wanting to meet. I never even heard their names before, and they're claiming to be leaders. The Democrats have no leader. They remind me of Somalia, okay? You know? And I met the president of Somalia. I told him about the problem he's got. I said, you have somebody from Somalia who's telling us how to run our country. She's from Somalia. He said, would you like to take her back? He said, no, I don't want her. Okay, you know who I'm talking about?
Now, he might be joking about asking Somalia's president to take back Ilhan Omar, but there's no doubt that plenty of Americans would be happy to see her go. As for the president's comments about the Democratic Party, well, the party is in chaos. And isn't it telling that Democrats are not calling for Democrat nominee for Attorney General in Virginia, Jay Jones, to drop out of the race after it was revealed that he sent disturbing text messages wishing violence on a Republican. And some Democrats have, of course, condemned the messages, though none have told him to withdraw from the race. We'll have more on that later in the show. But over in Portland, lefties are singing again as they protest against Donald Trump and ICE. Joining us now is independent journalist Brittany Hopper. Brittany, thank you so much for your time, especially today, because as we know, today marks 2 years since the horrific October 7 terrorist attack against Israel, where Hamas terrorists murdered around 1,200 people, took hundreds of innocent people hostage. And as we know, 48 hostages are still in the Gaza Strip. Sadly, not all of them are alive. And our hearts are certainly with all the people of Israel today and all of our Jewish friends around the world. Could I get your reflections 2 years on from October 7, 2023?
I mean, I can't believe that the war is still going on, but at the same time, I can believe it because this was the bloodiest day in Israel's history. This was also the deadliest day for Jews since the Holocaust. So naturally, this charged a full-blown war in what we've been seeing for the past 2 years. And it's also caused a rise in anti-Semitism. It's also a lot of things, and we still have, like you mentioned, 45 hostages, dead or alive, being held captive. 2 years later, this is still going on. You know, when I think that had Hamas released the hostages, we could have seen this war ended months, if not year ago. But this is still ongoing, and God willing, as a Jewish American woman who is a proud Zionist, I pray every day that this war ends soon and we find some peace over there. But it's really difficult to establish peace with people who literally want every single Jewish person and Israeli dead in this world, and including Israel, the country, to not exist. So it's tough. It's tough to even say, let's find peace, but yeah, do at some point.
Can I get your thoughts on Trump's peace plan? A Qatari foreign ministry spokesperson has said that there are still many details that need to be worked out on Trump's plan for the Gaza Strip. And of course, the deal would see Israel receive all hostages back after 2 years of being kept in terror tunnels, and the Palestinian terror group Hamas would step down from leadership and a number of Palestinian security prisoners would be released. Now, indirect peace talks between Hamas and Israel have continued for a second day in Egypt. Brittany, are you feeling cautiously optimistic? What's your assessment?
So keep in mind that, you know, this has been ongoing for generations, decades, right? And we've seen Hamas turn down peace deal after peace deal after peace deal for years, well before October 7th happened and this war. So I'm not that optimistic because again, we are dealing with a terrorist organization that it's not only the Jews, quite frankly, anyone who isn't radical Islamist, they want dead, and they can't coexist with anyone else. So it's tough to say, will peace happen? I think first and foremost, we need to get the hostages back, dead or alive, dead and alive, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
We need to get those hostages back. If there can be some peace, I think I speak for so many Jewish Zionists that I know, we all want peace. And so I hope that this peace deal, we're that much closer. I mean, it's a lot better than what we had when Biden was in office. So I do really appreciate the president trying to do something. But again, we're dealing with a side that doesn't really seem to want peace. And if they did, I don't think we would be in this position time and time again. It's really tough to find peace with a side who wants to literally abolish Israel from the map.
Yeah, it's certainly difficult to find peace with terrorists that vow to repeat October 7 again and again. And Brittany, you also mentioned the rise in anti-Semitic attacks. We've seen them here in Australia, right around the world. And there are also plenty of woke lefties protesting against Israel, many supporting Hamas, and are, of course, silent about other conflicts that are going on in the world. And the West and the world seems to have platformed people like Greta Thunberg. She's just been deported from Israel after her latest publicity stunt, and this is what she had to say.
And what Israel did was mainly not to illegally abduct us in international waters and abuse us in prison, but it was that it stopped a humanitarian mission and violating international law by preventing humanitarian aid from entering Gaza.
Oh, Brittany, it is such a joke claiming she was abducted. Can I get your reaction to this?
So I saw a really great clip of a reporter because she was going on and on about how Israel abused her. And they said, well, can you give us details on how Israel abused you guys? And what did Israel do to you? And she said, well, they were just so mean that they didn't allow me to say goodbye to my friends. Listen, I think, it's ironic that the people out there, especially the far left, that are praising this person, this young woman, it's ludicrous to me. I mean, every time she speaks, it doesn't even make sense. She's, but these are the same people, in my opinion, who were also saying the horrible things about Charlie Kirk's assassination. Yeah. We have a common denominator here of a lot of these people have just lost their humanity, in my opinion. And I think this woman is very ill-informed. I mean, she tweeted something today about Gaza treating, or it was something about Gaza and how people are being mistreated, yet she posted it, and maybe it was an accident, but it was actually an Israeli hostage.
Well, there you go.
And I'm not messed up, and a lot of people were like, you posted an Israeli hostage. So I just think that she's ill-informed. I think that, she probably was given another sandwich and sent along. They did commit an illegal act, mind you. You can't go over to a foreign country. This isn't allowed, and no other country would allow this.
She was trying to break a blockade.
Right, try doing this in North Korea. But there's a part of me that wishes that Israel would just let them over in Gaza, because I would love to see what Hamas does to these white liberal people.
Wouldn't it be interesting? No, I think Greta Thunberg just is desperate for attention, and it was great to hear Donald Trump absolutely blasting Greta Thunberg, saying she needs anger management classes or something like that. But let's look at the Democrats, and of course the new face or new star of the Democratic Party is anti-Israel socialist New York City mayoral frontrunner Zohran Mamdani. Now, he's admitted that he might need another plan to fund his $10 billion freebie-filled agenda if he can't actually hike taxes on the ultra-wealthy wealthy. Now, he's made it no secret that during his campaign from the early days that he's hoping to drum up $10 billion for his freebie-fueled agenda, in part by taxing the wealthy. He pitched a 2% tax hike on New York City's millionaires and a 4.5% increase on corporations. But Brittany, I want to get your thoughts on what New York City is really in for, because we know Mamdani wants rent freezes, he wants government-run grocery stores, he wants free buses. We've heard him in the past say he doesn't believe that billionaires, they should just not exist. Of course, he's anti-Israel. He's previously called to defund the police. So I'm suspecting that a lot of New Yorkers will be rushing to join you in Florida, Brittany.
Right, we suspect that as well. But here's what we're forgetting. So he's a socialist. He's a known socialist. He has said it out there that he is a socialist. So this is the socialist ideologies. This is what they are all about. And I've said this time and time again, the far left liberals have hijacked the Democrat Party here in America, and their social experiment is failing. It is failing. We saw this in California. We're going to see it in New York if he gets elected. And you're going to be surprised about what I'm going to say right now, but there is a part of me that wants him to get elected only because, and one, because I don't live in New York City, but two, hopefully our country can see what will happen if an actual socialist is running the country. So he could potentially be running the largest city in this country. And I mean, there's not going to be any law and order. We are going to see so much fail that maybe the American people need to really see this happen so that we don't elect a socialist in for presidency one day, because we're headed in that direction, because the far left has absolutely hijacked the Democrat Party, in my opinion.
It certainly has. And the Democrat Party is on life support in California. Of course, Gavin Newsom's California. It's interesting looking at the figures over the last 8 months. Republicans have registered tens of thousands of new voters. Democrats have registered around 100. Look at this.
Year, there's been some changes in voter registration and with which party voters want to identify. Since February 10th, 82,000 people chose no party preference when registering to vote. There was also a jump for the Republican Party, with it gaining 48,000 voters, but Democrats only gaining 190 voters in 200 plus days.
Brittany, is it Gavin Newsom that's also turning people away?
So I'm not surprised by this at all. I'm a born and raised Californian for 40 plus years. We just moved to Florida 2 years ago because of the far left ideologies that took over California. I'm not surprised by this at all. If you live in California, if you were born and raised in California, the old California is not what it used to be. And we have firsthand the changes. It's unlivable at this point in so many ways. So I am not surprised by this whatsoever. And I don't entirely blame Gavin Newsom. It's a collective of people there that are running the show there that have just destroyed the state and so many blue cities in that state. But people are waking up because there's a lot of money in California. And look at how many multi-billionaire, billion-dollar companies have moved away from the state. So people are starting to wake up. Taxes, I mean, we paid $50,000 a year in property taxes alone to live in the Palisades, and then it goes up in flames. So I mean, there's just so many. You're living in one of the wealthiest areas in California, and you're having to step over a homeless person. Oh, excuse me, we're not supposed to say an unhoused person. So I mean, it's, there's just, it's people are running amok there, and I think people are starting to really wake up.
100%. Now, finally, before I let you go, we've spoken about trust in the media, and it's now at a record low in the United States. And this is just one example of why that might be happening. This is how MSNBC's Nicole Wallace reports on Gavin Newsom's social media strategy. Take a look at this.
The whole notion that the right is an absolute puddle of snowflakes has been exposed by Gavin Newsom.
And this is how she reports on Donald Trump's social media.
childish, it is crass, it is vulgar, it's of course unpresidential, it's dumb. Leader Jeffries is pictured wearing a sombrero and a fake mustache, while Schumer goes about making a fake speech he never actually said or delivered.
Brittany, I mean, how can anyone take outlets like MSNBC seriously?
I don't think they are. And I think that the proof is in the ratings. I don't think that they are. I mean, there was just a recent poll, 28% of Americans trust the media right now.
Isn't that so low, 28%? I'd also like to know who the 28% are.
Same. It's probably the far left liberals watching this.
Correct.
The hypocrisy here. I mean, and this is why I think so many Americans are not trusting the media anymore. Also, journalists are no longer being journalists. They have become activists.
Yeah.
You know that I was on CBS News in Los Angeles for over 15 years, and I've said this before, and I'm going to say this again. I know firsthand that my scripts had to be changed, or I had to withhold information, especially during the BLM riots and the COVID-19 pandemic. So we know that there's going to be a mistrust, because eventually, now that everyone has their cell phones and everyone's basically a journalist now, other information is going to start coming up and out. But this hypocrisy, what you just showed, the clip that you just showed, the hypocrisy of how she's congratulating Newsom, but then yet when Trump does it, he's a dictator, he's this, he's that. So people are starting to wake up. I really do believe that the proof is in the ratings. And, you have these shows like The View, you have the late night talk show hosts, Jimmy Fallon and Kimmel, and they're getting 130,000 views or people watching a night. I mean, across the board, the ratings are going down, except for conservative news outlets. Now, those ratings are starting to go up.
They are going up indeed. Brittany Hopper, independent journalist, thank you so much for joining us. It was wonderful to speak to you.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
It's time for Media Meltdown, starting with sacked MSNBC host Joy Reid, who is always so calm, eloquent and respectful while speaking about the president or the vice president.
Start by saying, J.D. Vance, since you're paying attention to me, you.
Oh.
And I say that on behalf of every Black woman who heard you call Kamala Devi Harris the trash.
And she continues, so could it get any worse?
You forever. There's nothing you could ever say that I would take as advice, friendly or otherwise. I don't need advice from you. You need to learn how to be a decent human being, and you need to apologize to Kamala Harris for what you said. So let's start with that.
What's with the finger pointing? Also, she adds the word F you forever, like a teenager would, which brings me to our next meltdown, featuring another Democrat big star, Jasmine Crockett, who has graced the airwaves of MSNBC with this reasonable and charming message.
It is time to recognize that while you thought the enemy was the immigrant, or you thought the enemy was the trans person, or you thought the enemy was the Black folk, or you thought the enemy were the women, when the reality is that the only person that is harming you right now, if you are struggling to make sure that you can pay your bills, if you're struggling to feed your family, if you are struggling to find a job, if you are struggling to keep your business open, or if you're a farmer, while we currently have record level bankruptcies by farmers, it is not any of those people on the list. It is the old white Nepo baby that is sitting in the White House that is causing all the destruction, pain, and problems that you are enduring.
Oh, wow, that is going to help the Democrats. Yes, according to Jasmine Crockett, every problem that Americans are facing is caused by the duly elected president. Also this week, The View's Joy Behar is pushing a conspiracy theory that National Guard troops are going to stop the next election.
There is crime in American cities, but the way to deal with it is get the funding that you need for police, get the training that you need, and work with local officials.
This is a pretext to stop the next election.
Oh, is it? Any pushback or clarification for that kind of claim? Joy Behar spun another lie this week, suggesting that DHS Secretary Kristi Noem is racist if we see ICE agents arresting illegals at the Super Bowl, which led this bright spark, Whoopi Goldberg, to call on all Americans to do this.
Everybody,
get a little cocoa butter, sit in the sun. That's the first thing. and this is the only time you can probably ever do this, give yourself a Latin accent.
You know, Whoopi, that is such a good idea.
And see if she can tell who's who.
Joining us now is CJ Pearson, RNC Youth Advisory Council co-chair. CJ, there is so much to unpack with just so many meltdowns. But let's start with the hosts on The View. They have to be on another planet. Let's just look at that last grab. Whoopi essentially wants illegals to stay in America so badly and wants them attending the Super Bowl that she's calling on Americans to darken their skin and put on an accent. And Joe Behar thinks it's the best thing she's ever heard. I mean, what are your thoughts on all that?
You know, it's absolutely insane, but what is that? That's, part of the course for The View. Here's the deal. The Democrats, of course, have always been a fan of blackface. Look at, former Virginia Governor Ralph Northam, who notoriously was captured in a photograph where he was either a Ku Klux Klansman or wearing blackface. We still don't know quite yet. So it's not actually surprising to me that the left has become so deranged now that they have now put themselves in a position of endorsing cultural appropriation to prove their point. Here's the deal that I don't understand about this. If you don't want ICE to come for you, don't enter this country illegally. It's actually not that hard to do, but it's interesting to me that that's just not clocking and or clicking to the lovely, lovely ladies of The View.
No, and it's they've had a fair bit of time to understand the concept, but yeah, they're now just pushing conspiracy theories. It is beyond a joke. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is doing everything in his power to stop ICE agents in the city. He signed an executive order creating ICE-free zones. Listen to this.
Today, we are signing an executive order aimed at reining in this out-of-control administration. The order establishes ICE-free zones. That means that city property and unwilling private businesses will no longer serve as staging grounds for these raids.
CJ, this comes after Donald Trump authorised the deployment of around 300 National Guard troops to Chicago to crack down on out-of-control crime. Now, the White House has called the mayor of Chicago sick and accused him of defending rapists and killers for barring ICE agents from operating on city-owned property. But CJ, we've been hearing from people in Chicago who desperately want troops there. And I mean, if you look at DC, it has made a significant impact in bringing down crime.
You're right. And it's not just the people within the White House that think that Brandon Johnson is sick. It's the people of Chicago, because this is an individual who enjoys a near single-digit approval rating. It's kind of hard to be that disliked, right? But when you look at what's going on here in Chicago, I got to tell you, I actually don't really care about what the mayor declares to be an ICE-free zone, because you want to know what the American people voted for on November 5th? They voted for illegal free zones, for all of America to be an illegal free zone. We voted for people to actually, I don't know, abide by the laws of the land. It's not rocket science. Maybe it is to the Dems, but to the American people who gave the president the resounding mandate that he enjoys, it's not rocket science at all.
No, it's not. But CJ, what is it with old lefties and singing? Unfortunately for both of us, they are back and they are protesting in Portland against Donald Trump and ICE, of course, with his awful performance. And they're waving the Ukrainian flag. Look at this. I mean, it's so painful, but we keep seeing these types of people just pop up protesting against Donald Trump. They've got their No King sign. They've got a Ukrainian flag. It's ridiculous.
It's absolutely ridiculous. For a long time, these folks would have called the Republican Party the party of old white guys. But I don't know if you just watched the same video that I just watched, but it seems like the roles are reversed a lot here, right? Young people are fleeing the left. They're coming over to the Republican Party. Young Black Americans are coming over to the Republican Party. It seems as if the only people that are coming out for the Democrats these days are old white people trying to relive their hippie days and participate in these ridiculous protests. And so I got to say, when it comes to the party of diversity, true diversity, but diversity not just for the sake of having it, but because, these people actually are free thinkers. We have diversity of thought on this side of the aisle as well. That has quickly become the Republican Party. And I think for good reason. People are waking up, whether you're Black, brown, white, gay, straight, it doesn't matter. People realize that this has become, the Republican Party has become the party of common sense. The left has lost it, lost the plot. It's exactly why people are, again, as I said, fleeing them every single day.
The president blasted the Democrats today at the White House, comparing the party to Somalia. And look, he makes an interesting point that the Democrats are essentially leaderless, I should say, and the party's become a joke. And right now, pressure is mounting on Virginia Democratic Attorney General nominee Jay Jones to drop out of the race after leaked text messages show that he openly talked about violence directed toward former Virginia House Speaker Todd Gilbert. He also allegedly has previously suggested that more police officers should be killed, and if they were, that would mean that they would shoot fewer people. I mean, it's just disgusting reading this kind of text messages. Jay Jones has said, "I'm embarrassed, I'm ashamed, and I'm sorry." But CJ, Democrats are not really calling on him to drop out. Republicans certainly are. And as we know, political violence is not a joke.
It's not a joke at all. And this is exactly why I reject the narrative that some on both the left and even the right have conceded that this is a both sides issue. This is not a both sides issue in this country, right? The bullets are coming from left to right. You look at the, of course, the assassination or the mass shooting attempt on the congressional baseball game just a few years ago. You look at the 2 assassination attempts on President Trump's life. You look at the assassination attempt against Justice Brett Kavanaugh. That person was recently sentenced to federal prison time. You look at, of course, what we saw happen with Charlie Kirk. The left has exposed themselves as having a very, very real problem with the violence on their side of the aisle. And of course, when you connect the dots with the connection that it has to transgenderism, it's even more damning. And so I think that it's unfortunate to see this type of rhetoric coming from the Dems. Jay Jones says he's embarrassed, but apparently not embarrassed enough to drop out of this race. So I don't really actually take his words to have any sincerity to them. But again, I think it's, of course, very revealing to see that a lot of the Democrat leadership have not called on him to drop out of this race, because they frankly don't give a damn about the fact of how vile this was. These people want us dead. That's not hyperbole anymore. They show it to us every single day. You see Gavin Newsom just a few days ago tweeting at Stephen Miller, calling him a fascist, the same very thing that was on the bullet that was, shot at Charlie Kirk. And so it's disgusting, but these people have showed us who they are. We got to believe them.
100%, and they keep showing us who they are, and I think those Democrats that are staying silent, well, their silence says a lot. I want to ask you about another big story this week. It's been revealed that former Special Counsel Jack Smith was allegedly tracking the private communications and phone calls of nearly a dozen Republican senators as part of his investigation into the January 6th Capitol riots. So this shows that Biden's FBI was essentially spying on Republican senators during its Arctic frost investigation. Donald Trump wrote on Truth Social that deranged Jack Smith got caught with his hand in the cookie jar, a real sleazebag. But pretty shocking revelation, CJ.
Shocking revelation, but again, part of the course for the Biden White House. These are people who abuse power every single day as if it was their actual job to do. And I think it's why I'm so glad to see folks like Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, and of course, Attorney General Pam Bondi cleaning up this entire mess, because obviously there's a lot to do, a lot to expose. And I think that this is just the beginning of a lot more to come.
Look, it hasn't been a great week for CNN. Caroline Levitt and Stephen Miller have given a masterclass in essentially how to torch the network. Here's Caroline Levitt ripping into Caitlin Collins, just reminding her to report the facts.
I spoke to the police chief of Portland last week. He said that the president's claims just don't match up with what's happening on the ground.
I would encourage you as a reporter to go on the ground and to take a look at for yourself, because there's been many members of the press, not press in this room, but independent journalists, some of whom we'll be inviting to the White House very soon to share their stories, because they have been in the middle of these riots and they have witnessed the anarchy that is taking place night after night. It's on video. You should play it on your show. You have a great opportunity on prime time on CNN to show your audience. Yeah, but you're probably talking to partisan Democrat officials who are opposed to everything this president does.
Caroline Levitt telling Caitlin Collins how to do her job there. And let's look at Stephen Miller's interview.
Is it the case that, as Pritzker frames it, you are profiling brown people, that this immigration crackdown is designed to go after people of color?
It's such a, oh, what a dumb question. The illegal aliens who are here are taking jobs away from blacks, they're taking jobs away from whites, they're taking jobs away from Latinos, they're taking their health benefits away, they're taking their school slots away, and of course in many cases they're committing heinous crimes. We cannot have a system of law in this country that privileges illegal aliens over American citizens, and that's what they're doing. You know it, and I know it.
So that's not exactly a no, Stephen. Can you just unequivocally state that the immigration policy... I said it's a dumb question. Okay.
Well,
I appreciate that, but
it's a dumb question.
I mean, CJ, it was brilliant to watch, but I think it makes a lot of sense that a lot of people don't trust these networks anymore. A recent Gallup poll found that 7 in 10 Americans do not trust the mainstream media anymore. And I mean, you look at interactions like that, and it makes a lot of sense.
These people are completely divorced from reality. You know, Caroline Levitt having to tell a journalist to go out and journal, you know, and actually do her job and go on the ground is very revealing. You know, Caitlin Collins citing the Portland police chief who works for the Portland mayor, who's some left-wing whack job, as if it's just a matter of fact, is just absolutely insane. Go out, do your job, let CNN pay for it, and then actually report on the ground what's happening, which is basically the transformation of Portland, Oregon into a third world country, you know, right here in our own borders. And, you know, Stephen Miller, I think, of course, he is in a class of his own when it comes to taking the liberal media to task. And he did that there. It was a dumb question, because you look at what these legal aliens have done to our country. They are taking, you know, opportunities away from American citizens. And American citizens, that's a broad umbrella. That's black people. That's Latinos. As he pointed out, the fact of the matter is, people that I meet that are most passionate about stopping the immigration in this country are legal immigrants themselves, because they say that we weren't given any special privileges. We didn't cut the line. Why should we reward that? Why should we encourage that behavior? And they're absolutely right.
Finally, CJ, before I let you go, the president is on TikTok. Look at this.
To all of those young people of TikTok, I saved TikTok, so you owe me big, and now you're looking at me in the Oval Office, and someday one of you are going to be sitting right at this desk, and you're going to be doing a great job also.
CJ, can I get your reaction? The president saying he saved TikTok.
We do owe him big, you know, not just for saving TikTok, which I probably spent far too much time on, but also too for helping turn America around. As the president delivers for America's young people and America's next generation every single day, whether it's securing our border, bringing back law and order, keeping us safe, but also to creating an economy that we can win in. I gotta say, there's a laundry list of thank yous that we owe the president. We're grateful for his leadership and thankful that he continues to deliver for Generation Z and future generations to come.
Absolutely. CJ Pearson, RNC Youth Advisory Council co-chair, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Joining us now is Andrew Eborn, barrister and broadcaster and president of Octopus TV. Andrew Eborn, it's wonderful to see you again. Let's talk about Prince William. Oh, thank you very much. Now, Prince William has opened up about his son Prince George's future as king in an interview with Eugene Levy for his show The Reluctant Traveller. Now, Prince William spoke about the legacy he hopes that he and his son will create. What more can you tell us?
Well, I can tell you, I was honoured to be invited to the launch of that with Eugene Levy, and we basically went through a lot of the questions and the backgrounds as to the extraordinary revelations. It was the most open and candid interview Prince William has ever done, and he knew Eugene through American Pie. You might remember that glorious 1999 hit, which is why I think he got more from him than anybody else might have done, sort of traditional royal journalists. And one of the things I obviously wanted to ask asked Eugene was just what sort of access, what limitations he had as regarding the questions he could ask. And he said, look, there were no limits. He was surprised. He got an invitation at the Goring Hotel. It arrived, I think, in about January, and he was invited for a guided tour by Prince William. When Prince William first turned up, he turned up on a scooter. So he was the Prince of Wheels rather than the Prince of Wales.
Brilliant.
Which is lovely. But what I loved about the revelations, he talked about his family, how they wanted to be very ordinary and so on and so forth. And so they weren't allowed to have mobile phones. He tries to encourage them to sit down for meals together, at least one meal at the end of the day, where they can unpack those sort of stories. And that's what he wants to do. He hinted about his own traumatic childhood, something that I'm sure that the king would not be too happy to have aired in public. But he spoke about it. He said, look, we've learned from the mistakes of our parents. He obviously suffered a divorce when he was very young. And he wanted Prince George and the other two, Louis and Charlotte, to have a normal life. And that's what he tried to encourage them to do.
Yeah, it's interesting. I liked hearing that being mentioned, that he's quite strict when it comes to no phones at the dinner table, and that dinner's a really important time to talk to one another and really connect, Andrew.
Oh, absolutely. That's probably true for all of us, isn't it, Gabriella?
Absolutely.
You see people in restaurants now, they're all swiping left and swiping right and not paying attention to the person they're sitting with. So it's great advice. As I say, he was very humorous. It was the wittiest I've heard him for a long time. He was talking about how some tourists, he didn't say which nationality, were being shown around Windsor Castle. And he said, why on earth, a plane flew past. He said, why on earth did they build Windsor Castle in a flight path? Which we love, because obviously it was built in 1070 by William the Conqueror.
Yes.
So I don't think flight paths were thought of in those sort of days.
Oh, very funny. Look, he also spoke about the healthy competition between his children, between Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis, and it appears to come out on the trampoline. Is that right?
Absolutely. So what they try to encourage them to do is to exercise rather than look at screens all day. So they have this trampolining, which apparently is really good for you. It's good for your balance and good for getting all that sort of energy out there. But they fight each other on the trampoline. So the wonderful sort of under 10s, as they're both that sort of age, worked on that sort of basis. So that's what they're doing. They're bouncing. They're encouraging that sort of sibling rivalry and very, very competitive on that sort of basis.
You know, it's so relatable, isn't it? And there are also reports that Prince William and Princess Catherine have set up a pub quiz team, and they're now taking on locals weekly, not too far away from where they live.
Well, that's absolutely right. Well, one of the confessions that Prince William had is that he's not very good at history. So even though he was giving a guided tour of Windsor Castle, he was sort of turning around and saying, well, I didn't really know very much. But he is pretty good at football. So he knows his beloved team, Aston Villa. He knows quite a lot about them. But what he does, he takes his two elder children to the pub. Apparently, they have Team Wales who compete in the pub quiz on a regular basis. And that's what they do, that sort of very relatable side. And indeed, you had him having a pint. I told you I went and did the research for you last time. He would go to the pub with Eugene Levy and things like that, and have his pint of cider is what his favourite tipple was on that sort of occasion. But this pub quiz is what he does on a sort of regular basis, apparently, Team Wales. And what happens, we don't get told, however, just how good he might be.
Thank you so much for doing that research for us. We always appreciate it. We have to talk.
Oh, it's such a hardship, Gabriella.
I know, it is. Now, let's talk about Queen Camilla and renovations, because I suppose renovating a house is relatable, but not quite renovating a room for Buckingham Palace. But she's pushing a specific change to Buckingham Palace as part of its £369 million renovation, which is 750 million Australian dollars. It's extraordinary. Now, despite boasting more than 700 rooms, Buckingham Palace is without a library. So, Andrew, Queen Camilla has reportedly been pushing for this change.
Oh, absolutely. They've got 775 rooms in Buckingham Palace. Can you believe it? I have visited it myself, not necessarily all the rooms, but work on that sort of basis. But the one room they don't have is a library, and they've been renovating since 2017. It costs that eye-watering figure, and we all know, anybody who's having housework done, they know it always takes time. It always takes a lot longer than anticipated. But in spite of those 775 rooms, the one thing it doesn't have is a library, because what happened is King George IV, he donated the King's Library to the British Museum. I think it was in 1823. And since then, it hasn't had one. So poor old Charles, he's very worried about how much the whole thing is costing. And the Queen says, well, one room we need, just a few million more. It's a library, and she's a real bookworm. She loves books. Jilly Cooper was a very close friend of her, the author who died, sadly, a few days ago at 88. She was really, really close to her. And one of the characters in her wonderful books was based on Camilla's ex. So it worked on that sort of basis. But she loves her books, and that would be one room that she wants to have in Buckingham Palace.
Well, I'm backing Queen Camilla on that one. I think that is absolutely fair enough. We have to speak about Meghan Markle because she's been mocked at Paris Fashion Week. She, of course, spent the weekend there showing plenty of behind-the-scenes content. Now, let's just take a look at the Duchess strutting for the cameras. Now, look, it's not being received well, certainly not as well as maybe she would have hoped, with some people labelling it a Zoolander walk. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think you've got to get the Princess Pouch, don't you? You've got to work on that. Brilliant Ben Stiller movie and those glorious moments as they strut their stuff, all sorts of things. And people come with their own prejudices about the megalomania, as I call it each time. What happened? She said it's the first time they've been there in a decade. Well, she's never been to the Paris fashion show. She went to one beforehand in New York and Toronto when she was a Suits star, and then she wasn't nearly as famous as she is now. She wore this sort of glorious outfit. A lot of people were criticizing the fact that she strutted more like a model than she did as a guest and so on and so forth. And she also did these wonderful little clips on her Instagram. Again, the things I do for research for you, Gabriella.
Thank you.
So we watched those. She went round Paris in this car. She had her heels kicked up, and you can see that. A lot of people criticised her because she went near the tunnel where Diana was tragically killed. I'm not sure that was deliberate, but it's a lot of people criticised that. But she was shown eating little French fries and nibbling on other bits and pieces, being a typical tourist, as well as that glorious Zoolander throwback.
Oh, it's hilarious, isn't it? Look, I think she's certainly getting roasted on plenty of social media feeds that I can see here in Sydney, Australia. But we appreciate all your research and hard work. Andrew Eborn, President of Octopus TV, barrister and broadcaster, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. See you next week from Cannes.
And that is Power Hour. Thank you for your company. We'll see you tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe to Sky News Australia on YouTube.